Hey yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe so you can show your support. The Pro Wrestling Podcast is preparing for a special event. We're going to have live fan voting for the semifinals of our 128-man tournament Saturday night, May 6th at 9 p.m. That's right, the final groups, the final pairings, our semifinals will take place that evening. And while you're at it, go to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast. If you want to sign up to be one of our monthly contributors, we'll make sure we get your name in the credits for every episode in that entire month. And in addition to that, if you are one of those people who want to be even more generous, we have tiered rewards for all the people out there who really want to help our podcast grow. So, if you have an opportunity, shoot over to our page and try to contribute in any way you can. Before we get started with the news, we want to give you the final 8, the Elite 8 wrestlers. We put them in the previous episode. We have not had a large response like we have for other votes, so we want to give you the matches one more time so we can set up the best matches we can in that semifinal for Saturday night. So, the Elite 8 final matches are Hulk Hogan versus Bret the Hitman Hart, The Great Muta versus John Cena, Yokozuna versus Brock Lesnar, and The Rock versus Sting. For those who have been tuning in all throughout this fantasy book tournament, you know that these have been some amazing matches, things we've never seen, things we never thought we'd see, and you guys get to be the bookers. So, in the YouTube links below, give us a comment and tell us which 4 superstars do you have moving on to our semifinals for our live Saturday night broadcast. Who are you going to pick from those 4 matches? We'll tabulate your votes, and we'll get your people moved on to the next round, and the release of those names and the matchups for the semifinals will be announced Saturday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. City Time. You know, just in case you're one of our viewers from around the world, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today's episode is focused on some craziness going on in the world of professional wrestling today. Charlotte Flair, yet another WWE female superstar who has had her private photographs taken from her cellular device, electronic device, or some device of some kind, and has had them inappropriately posted online without her permission, without her consent. This is another huge issue for WWE. They just got done with a lot of the issues they had with Paige and Alberto Del Rio's situation, with her pictures being leaked online with Xavier Woods and Brad Maddox, and now here we go again. Charlotte Flair taking, private photos, leaving them on whatever device she left them on, and now they have been picked up, and someone has posted them online. Now, she put a post up on her Twitter feed, and she was very clear what her expectation is. She said, "Private photos of mine were stolen and shared publicly without my consent. These images must be removed from the internet immediately." Clearly, Charlotte is not someone you want to mess with. If whoever this is who released these, better be careful. This is the kind of woman who will make this illegal matter, and then it gets really serious. So by all means, if you didn't learn anything from the Gawker situation with Hulk Hogan, you don't want to be the person who's caught divulging these kinds of information to the world. So moving on, the National Wrestling Alliance, the backbone of professional wrestling from the early 1900s all the way until the 80s, when they were with part of Jim Crockett Promotions prior to being sold to Ted Turner when it became WCW. There was a separation at that point, and the NWA kind of went into obscurity. The National Wrestling Alliance has been a historic piece of pro wrestling history. Their championship belt, for those who were diehard fans in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, their championship belt was the moniker of pro wrestling. It was the apex. It was a conglomerate of all sorts of regional territories who paid into the National Wrestling Alliance to be members of this elite group of companies. And what would happen is the World Heavyweight Champion, the NWA Champion, would travel from town to town and promotion to promotion, defending that title against each area's top star. It is a wonderful and historic piece of history in the pro wrestling world, and the news today of Billy Corgan, the musical artist for the Smashing Pumpkins, he tried to make a play last year on Impact Wrestling. He wanted to become the majority owner of Impact Wrestling. That did not work out, so now he has moved on to his next project, and that is purchasing the NWA brand name. Now, the interesting part about this is he is not purchasing their right now launched on-demand service for former NWA matches. He is not getting that. He is also not getting the tape library, which is a concern for other people who are afraid that the WWE will end up at some point acquiring that as well. And then they'll have a monopoly on pretty much the history of pro wrestling. He is acquiring purely the name, the copyrights, the logo, and that championship belt that has been around for so long, that is so synonymous with some of the greatest professional wrestlers in history, including Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race. So, it'll be interesting to see what he does with this brand. Hopefully he finds a way to tie in the original legacy, the beauty, the history, all the pageantry of the former National Wrestling Alliance, and find a way to connect that with a new crowd, with new talents who can carry on that tradition and really bring the NWA back to prominence. After Jim Crockett Promotions sold to Ted Turner, it kind of went away into essentially a glorified independent. Now, NWA TNA, the original version of Impact Wrestling, brought back the NWA Championship belt to prominence in the 2000s, but at one point, Impact Wrestling separated from the NWA. They became TNA exclusively, and the NWA got their championship back, and it has really toiled in mediocrity and irrelevance ever since. Hopefully, Billy Corgan can bring some excitement back to that brand. The last part for today's episode is about Ring of Honor. They have a major event coming up Friday, May 12th at the Manhattan Center's Hammerstein Ballroom, the War of the Worlds event. This event is going to be headlined by some of the greatest performers in the world from both Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. The main event is going to see a Ring of Honor World Championship match pitting Christopher Daniels against the American Nightmare Cody and versus Jay Lethal in a triple threat match. The Ring of Honor World Television Championship will be defended. The villain, Marty Scurll, is going to defend against Matt Sydal. The Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship will be on the line. Tag Team Champions right now, the Young Bucks, are going to take on two of New Japan's best, the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, Tetsuya Naito, and Bushi. And then the Ring of Honor 6-Man Tag Team Championship will be defended when you get to see the Briscoes team with Bully Ray to take on Roppongi Vice and Hiroki Goto from Suzuki Gun. Hiroshi Tanahashi, major mainstay of New Japan Pro Wrestling, will be taking on Adam Cole. Will Ospreay will be taking on Jay White. And there'll be a triple threat non-title IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match with War Machine taking on Evil and Sonata, taking on Search and Destroy, comprised of Jonathan Gresham and Chris Sabin. And they'll have Alex Shelley in their corner. And then there's what they're calling the Heavy Metal Rebel, Frankie Kazarian taking on Hangman Page. I don't know why they gotta add a moniker like Heavy Metal Rebel to everything, but whatever. And the final match is a 4-corner survival match, Kushida, New Japan stalwart, versus Dalton Castle with the boys, versus Bobby Fish, versus Silas Young. This event is just packed, top to bottom. If you get an opportunity on pay-per-view, check it out. Ring of Honor delivers. New Japan, they deliver. And when you bring the two together, should make for an amazing show. The Fro Ride Wrestling Podcast, please don't forget we have that special event coming up Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll have live fan voting for the semifinals of the 128-man tournament. We have our final 4 matches are listed already. We gave them to you at the top of the show. We're going to give them to you one more time. Please get your votes in. Match number 1, The Immortal Hulk Hogan versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Match number 2, The Great Muta versus John Cena. Match number 3, Yokozuna versus Brock Lesnar. And match number 4, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, The Rock versus the Icon, Sting. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us in the next episode. We'll run down all the news and rumors, and we'll get to that live show Saturday night at 9 p.m. to determine who's going to win this tournament. Move on into the finals. Special thanks as always go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all of our music and sound effects used throughout today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games, where they bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to www.thegamecrafter.com/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. And to AlleyRepair.com, contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all of your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Don't forget, check out our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/FroWrestlingPodcast if you want to be a contributor and get your name in our headline for every episode. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsjsports.com/WWE for my latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until the next episode, take care, everyone. Have a great night.